In the UFC, the bell is supposed to be a lifeline, a momentary escape from the storm. But what happens when mercy becomes a foreign concept and those final ticks of the clock become the most dangerous moments of the entire fight? Today we're breaking down 10 fights where warriors didn't just win the round, they closed the show with milliseconds to spare. These are stories of relentless pressure, perfect timing, and the ultimate buzzer beaters where the fight was finished before the clock hit zero. But before we get into this, if you love MMA content like this, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Spartan Glory MMA. We bring you the best breakdowns, the most intense moments, and all the action from inside the octagon. So buckle up, because we're about to witness some of the most intense final seconds in UFC history. Let's start with number 10. 10. Quillan Salkilde versus Nasrat Haqparast. UFC 321. We begin our countdown at UFC 321 with a moment that stunned the entire lightweight division. When Australian prospect Quillan Salkilde stepped into the octagon against the durable veteran Nasrat Haqparast, the narrative was centered almost entirely on Haqparast's toughness. Known for his thick build and solid base, Haqparast had built a reputation as a tank, a fighter who could stand in the pocket, absorb damage, and keep moving forward. For the early parts of the fight, that durability seemed to be holding up. Haqparast pressed the action, looking to land his heavy left hand, while Salkilde used his length to manage the distance. To the observer, it appeared to be a tactical striking match that would likely grind its way into the later rounds. But Quillan Salkilde wasn't just managing distance, he was downloading data. He noticed a specific tendency in his opponent's movement. Every time Haqparast entered range, he dipped his head slightly to the side, relying on his chin and his guard to protect him. Salkilde saw the pattern, and he decided to exploit it with lethal precision. Out of nowhere, Salkilde launched a high kick that was so fast it barely registered until it landed. It wasn't a grazing shot. It was a shin-to-temple connection that made a sickening sound upon impact. The kick bypassed the guard completely, finding the off switch on one of the toughest men in the division. Haqparast didn't just fall. The lights were shut off instantly. He crashed to the canvas, and before he even settled, his body began twitching, a terrifying sign of a complete system shutdown. Salkilde didn't need to land a follow-up shot. He knew the moment his shin connected that the fight was over. He refused to let the durable veteran survive the exchange, bypassing Haqparast's legendary toughness and sending him into unconsciousness with one of the cleanest head kicks of the year. 9. Elijah Smith versus Toshiomi Kazama. UFC Fight Night. At number 9, we move to a finish that felt like a violent throwback to the glory days of Pride FC. Elijah Smith faced off against the Japanese submission specialist Toshiomi Kazama in a classic clash of styles. The dynamic was clear from the start. Kazama wanted to drag the fight to the floor and tangle Smith up in a web of limbs, while Smith wanted to keep it standing and use his explosive power. In the heat of the battle, Kazama managed to get exactly what he wanted. He closed the distance, clinched, and jumped guard, locking up a submission attempt. He had Smith tied up, hanging off him like a backpack, threatening to put the power puncher to sleep with a choke. It was a dangerous position, and the momentum had swung entirely in the grappler's favor. Most fighters in Smith's position would have panicked, tried to peel the hands, or simply stalled against the fence, hoping for a referee separation or the end of the round. Elijah Smith, however, chose a path of pure force. Channeling the legendary slams of the past, Smith didn't bother with technical defense. Instead, he hoisted Kazama high into the air. He held him there for a split second, a terrifying pause where gravity became a weapon, before driving him into the canvas with catastrophic force.
Big slam!
The impact was devastating. Kazama's head whipped back against the mat, and his body went instantly stiff. The slam had rendered him unconscious before he even realized what had happened. Because the angle was difficult for the referee, the fight wasn't waved off instantly, and Smith landed a few follow-up shots on an opponent who was already fast asleep. Smith refused to accept the submission threat, turning a defensive liability into a highlight reel finish that reminded the world why power is the ultimate equalizer. 8. Malcolm Wellmaker versus Chris Moutinho, UFC Georgia. Number 8 takes us to Georgia, where hometown favorite Malcolm Wellmaker stepped into the cage against a man who has become a cult hero for his ability to absorb punishment, Chris Moutinho. Moutinho is known as the Zombie, a fighter who walks through fire, takes the best shots his opponents have to offer, and keeps moving forward with a relentless pace. The expectation going into the fight was that Moutinho would turn this into a muddy, grueling war, dragging Wellmaker into deep waters simply by refusing to go away. The durability of Moutinho often forces opponents to empty their gas tanks trying to finish him, but Malcolm Wellmaker is a sniper, and he doesn't believe in wasting ammunition. From the opening bell, Wellmaker was sharp. He wasn't just throwing strikes, he was setting traps. He began using a step kick, feinting low to get Moutinho to drop his eyes and his guard. He conditioned Moutinho to expect the attack to the legs, lulling him into a false sense of security regarding his head movement. Then he sprung the trap. Wellmaker faked the kick, a subtle twitch of the hips, and as Moutinho bit on the feint, Wellmaker uncorked a thunderous right hook from the hip. It was a shot generated from the floor up, carrying maximum torque and precision. The connection was perfect. Moutinho, the man who had survived barrages from some of the best in the world, fell face first into the canvas. He was out before he hit the ground. Wellmaker knew it was over instantly. He didn't rush in for ground and pound. He simply turned around and walked away, exuding supreme confidence. Wellmaker refused to play the durability game. He found the chin, executed the perfect read, and shut down the Zombie with surgical precision. 7. Carlos Prates versus Leon Edwards, UFC 322. Now we move to the elite level of the sport. At UFC 322, the former welterweight champion Leon Edwards looked to climb back to the top of the mountain against the terrifying Brazilian striker Carlos Prates. Leon Edwards is one of the most technically sound fighters in UFC history. He is a master of managing distance, a clinch specialist, and a man who had never been knocked out in his UFC career. He survived the power of Kamaru Usman for 5 rounds. He survived the chaos of Colby Covington. The narrative was that he would be too smart and too technical for the aggressive style of Prates. But Carlos Prates is not just a brawler. He is a finisher with dynamite in his hands and a reputation for putting people to sleep. As the fight unfolded, Edwards tried to keep Prates at the end of his kicks, managing the range as he always does. But Prates was stalking him, cutting off the angles and closing the net. The end came with shocking suddenness. Prates cut off the cage, stepping into the pocket with no fear of Edwards' counters. He threw a shot that defied the defensive guard of the former champ, a strike that carried so much momentum it literally lifted Edwards off his feet. Edwards crashed to the canvas, completely separated from consciousness. It was a sight that stunned the MMA world, as Edwards had never been finished in such a manner. Prates refused to let Edwards slow the fight down or point fight his way to a decision. He hunted the head, found the chin, and delivered a finish that signaled a violent changing of the guard at 170 pounds. 6. Lerone Murphy versus Aaron Pico, UFC 319. At number 6, we have a finish that was pure poetry in motion, a masterclass in timing over brute force. Lerone Murphy, the undefeated standout from Manchester top team, took a massive risk by facing the explosive wrestler Aaron Pico on short notice. Pico came out of the gate with immense aggression. He was pressuring Murphy, trying to put him against the fence, looking to land his trademark hooks to the body and blast double-leg takedowns. For the early moments, Murphy was on his back foot, retreating and circling, looking for an angle to breathe against the relentless pressure. But that aggressive chase was exactly what Murphy was counting on. He set a trap based on rhythm. He hit a step-off movement, breaking the pattern of his retreat. As Pico lunged in to close the distance, expecting Murphy to continue running, Murphy planted his feet and spun. It wasn't a desperation move. It was a calculated sniper shot. A spinning back elbow connected flush with the point of Pico's jaw. The timing utilized Pico's own forward momentum against him, doubling the impact of the strike. Pico stiffened up and fell backward like a tree being felled in the forest. No follow-up shots were needed. Murphy simply looked at his handiwork and walked away. He refused to let the wrestler grind him down. He turned the pressure into a liability and ended the fight in a split second with a technique that requires absolute perfection. 5. Jiří Procházka versus Jamahal Hill. UFC 311.
Big ground strikes here! That indeed will do it!
We enter the top 5 with the Czech samurai Jiří Procházka in his highly anticipated rematch against Jamahal Hill. This was a battle of former champions, and it lived up to the billing as pure chaos from the opening bell. For nearly 3 rounds, they stood toe-to-toe and traded heavy artillery. Hill was having success, landing sharp counterpunches and finding a home for his left hand. But fighting Procházka is like fighting a natural disaster. You can never predict where the damage is coming from. Jiří was dipping, flowing, moving his head off-center and taunting with his hands low, inviting the brawl. Late in the 3rd round, Jiří decided it was time to take the judges out of the equation. He started to chain his attacks together, overwhelming Hill with volume and unorthodox angles. He timed Hill's entries, landing counters that turned the American's chin and took away his equilibrium. A massive right hand rocked Hill, sending him stumbling backward. The damage was visible. Hill tried to survive, tried to clear the cobwebs, but Procházka sensed the finish. He didn't reset. He didn't breathe. He swarmed Hill against the fence with a barrage of strikes, giving him no room to recover. Procházka overwhelmed Hill, forcing the referee to step in and save the former champ from further punishment. He refused to let the fight go to the scorecards. He created chaos, drowned his opponent in it, and secured the TKO victory through sheer, relentless pressure in the dying minutes of the round. 4. Mauricio Ruffi versus King Green. UFC 313. Number 4 is a highlight reel that belongs in a museum of martial arts. Mauricio Ruffi, the rising star representing the Fighting Nerds team, faced the veteran King Green. Green is a defensive wizard, known for his unique style of keeping his hands waist low, relying on head movement, and taunting his opponents mid-fight. He tried to employ these same tactics against Ruffi. He threw his hands out, shimmied, and tried to bait the young Brazilian into overcommitting or getting frustrated. But Ruffi wasn't playing games. He was calculating the distance, waiting for Green to get comfortable with his movement. In the 2nd round, he unleashed a technique that nobody saw coming, a move that looked like it belonged in a movie, not a cage fight. Ruffi executed a 360-degree switch spin wheel kick. He switched his stance mid-air, confusing Green's defensive radar, and wrapped his heel around Green's guard. The connection was perfect, heel to temple. King Green went stiff and fell face-first into the canvas, completely unconscious. It was one of the most spectacular knockouts of the year. Ruffi refused to get frustrated by Green's antics. He didn't try to outbox him. He spun the block and turned the lights out with a move of pure genius. 3. Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. UFC 313.
Deal with. Oh! Right hand! Oh, Ankalaev immediately...
At number 3, we have the moment where the script got flipped on its head. The narrative going into this light heavyweight clash was simple. Magomed Ankalaev would wrestle Alex Pereira, drag him into deep waters, and drown the striker on the mat. And for parts of the fight, the threat was there. But Alex Pereira has an equalizer that no one can fully prepare for. In the third round, Pereira began to march Ankalaev down. He landed a right hand that rocked the Russian, taking away his equilibrium. Ankalaev, desperate and hurt, tried to clinch, tried to find safety against the fence to slow the onslaught. Pereira swarmed him, dragging the fight to the ground, ironically, the place Ankalaev wanted to be. But then, utilizing the newly updated unified rules, Pereira unleashed a new weapon. He began raining down 12-6 elbows, strikes that travel straight up and straight down, which had recently been made legal. These brutal elbows smashed through Ankalaev's guard, inflicting massive damage. Then came a body shot on the ground that folded Ankalaev completely. Pereira refused to let the wrestler survive or recover. He used every weapon in his arsenal, adapting to the new rules to secure a devastating TKO finish that cemented his legacy as one of the sport's most dangerous finishers. 2. Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira, UFC 317.
He busted up. Out cold.
The co-main event of our list features El Matador, Ilia Topuria, taking on the most prolific finisher in UFC history, Charles Oliveira. The build-up to this fight was filled with Topuria's supreme confidence. He told everyone who would listen that he would finish the legend in the first round. Critics called it arrogance, pointing to Oliveira's historic durability and lethal submission game. But when the cage door locked, Topuria fought with absolute certainty. He pressed forward immediately, backing Oliveira up and cutting off the octagon. He caught the Brazilian with a sharp right hand that sent him stumbling backward. As Oliveira was falling, trying to regain his balance, Topuria didn't hesitate. He landed a flush left hook while Oliveira was on his way down.
Already busted up. Out cold.
A man of his...
It was a shot that shut the lights off instantly. Oliveira hit the canvas stiff, completely out cold. Topuria had fulfilled his own prophecy. He refused to let Oliveira pull guard or turn the fight into a grappling match. He refused to let the round continue. He executed a flawless game plan and finished a future Hall of Famer in the first frame, proving that his confidence was entirely justified. 1. Jiří Procházka versus Khalil Rountree Jr., UFC 320. And finally, our number 1 pick. The ultimate example of refusing to let the bell save your opponent involves Jiří Procházka and Khalil Rountree Jr. This fight was a war of attrition. Khalil Rountree Jr., known for his violent Muay Thai, brought the heat early. He landed big shots, damaging the former champion and proving he belonged at the elite level. But Jiří Procházka thrives in the fire. He doesn't just endure damage. He uses it as fuel to escalate the violence. In the third round, with the fight potentially hanging in the balance, Jiří entered a flow state. He turned up the volume, attacking the body with front kicks, changing levels, and overwhelming Rountree with unpredictable combinations. He battered Rountree against the fence, giving him no room to breathe or reset. Then came the finishing sequence. Procházka landed a spinning elbow that stunned Rountree, freezing him in place.
To grab. Space. Beautiful.
He followed it with a left hook, then a right hand, dissecting Rountree's guard. Rountree was trapped against the cage, unable to move, absorbing punishment as the clock ticked down. The referee stepped in at 3:04 of round 3. Jiří Procházka didn't just win, he broke Rountree physically and mentally. He refused to let the fight go the distance. He rallied from the early damage, destroyed the opposition, and secured the finish with pure, unadulterated violence. He proved once again that he is the most chaotic force in the sport. What was your favorite fight from today's list? Did we miss any epic moments that should have made the cut? We want to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to see more thrilling MMA content, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Spartan Glory MMA. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update.